Hello and welcome everyone to my channel Code with Ease. In this video, we are going to see how to check if two strings are isomorphic to each other. So let's understand what does isomorphic mean. Two strings str1 and 2 are called isomorphic if there is a one-to-one mapping possible for every character of str1 to every character of str2 while preserving the order. Note, all occurrences of the character in str1 should map to the same character in str2. So let's look at the examples. So str1 is A, B, str2 is XXY, output is 1. So the return type would be okay. 1 means true, 0 means false. So it is true because the character A is mapping to the character X. Similarly, the next A is also mapping to character X and B is mapping to Y. So we can see that we can cleanly substitute every first there is a one-to-one mapping and then we can substitute the characters of str2 into str1. Because of that reason, we can say that these two strings are isomorphic. Going to the second example, however, we see that A is mapping to X, but then the second A is mapping to Y, whereas we are told that there should be one-to-one mapping only. If A is mapping to X, A cannot map to Y. So because of that reason, this is the output is 0, means it's a false thing. These two strings are not isomorphic to each other. Okay, and this is the time complexity, the total length of str1 and 2. Okay, so with this, let's try to understand the approach for solving this question. Let's move to the whiteboard. Okay, so into the whiteboard, let's define the strings first. So we'll have str1 as AAB and we'll have str2 as XXY. So A is having a mapping of X and B is having a mapping to Y. So we have a one-to-one mapping here. So let's look at the brute force way of solving this first. What we have to do is we have to traverse through this string of str1, which let's say is of length n, and then we have to consider every character and then check for the corresponding mapping of that character in str2, which means we're essentially going through a string of length n and then we are taking each character and then checking, doing some check on that. So it's like n into n. So it's the worst complexity, worst case complexity would be order of n square. So because this is not optimal, we would want to have an order of n time complexity. So we'll talk of the optimal solution, the optimal way of solving this. Before starting with the optimal solution, let us see what should be the edge cases for this. So what should be the edge case for us? When we would say these strings are like outright not isomorphic. When the lengths of the strings are different. If the lengths itself are not matching, then straight away we can return false. Because if the lengths are different, there cannot be any mapping, any one-to-one mapping. So that's the edge case. Then let's see what else can we do. So as I talked about this mapping, like A was having a mapping of X, B was having a mapping of Y. So when we are talking of mapping, one data structure that comes to our mind is hash map. So we will use hashing. We can have this, the str1's character as the key and the str2's character as the value. So we can have the key and value pairs like this. So why do we need to do that? Because if a certain key of str1, the certain key of str1's character is having a value, the corresponding value of str2, then we are good. We are good with the one-to-one mapping is okay. So we'll simply add to the hash map. We'll add that to the hash map, to the map. Okay. Now, in what cases we should not be adding to the hash map becomes important. So it may happen that A is pointing to X. Like we saw another example, A is pointing to X, and then we saw A was also pointing to another character. Let's say it's pointing to P. In this case, does this have any one-to-one mapping? No, because the key is same, the values are different. So if such a scenario occurs, then we should not be returning true. Means we should not be saying the strings are isomorphic. So what will be our negative scenarios? Number one will be keys are same but values are different. If that's the case, return false. Or it can also be something like A is pointing to X and there is another character, let's say D, which is also pointing to X. In here also there is no one-to-one map. So what will be this case? The keys are different, values are same. Then also return false. So if these two things happen, these are our negative scenarios, means where we have to return false. If anything, if this condition is also not satisfied, this is also not satisfied, finally we will add to the map. Add to the map what? The corresponding key and value. Okay. So I hope this much is clear. And with that, let's see how to code this. So now let's start with the code. So what would the edge case, as we discussed, if the lengths are different? So we'll say if the str1.length is not equal to str2.length, then we have to return false. Okay. So this is the edge condition, and then we'll start with the logic. So we'll have a map. Map is going to have the character and the integer, and it's going to be hashman. So we have to iterate through the length of the strings. Okay, so and we'll have a while loop through that. We also have a pointer called I, initialize this to 0, and we'll say while I less than str1.length. So in this we have to check if the map already contains the key. Which key? So we'll say if map is already containing the key, that is str1.char at of I. If the key is already contained, then we are going to check for the corresponding value. So if it contains the key, then we will check whether the value against this key, means map1.get str1.char at of I. If the value is equal to str2's corresponding character, then only we can establish a one-to-one mapping. If this is true, then we are good, but we have to make it a negative scenario. So we are just first trying to code the scenarios in which we have to return false. So if the key is being contained, and for against that key the value is not equal to the str2's character, then we have to return false. Okay. That's about the first condition. Second condition was if the value is already contained, means if map1 dot contains value of what? Of the str2's character, like we discussed in the whiteboard. So if str2's character char at of I, if this is already contained, then also you have to return false. So this covers our two negative scenarios. Okay. Else, if none of these satisfies, then we have to return, then we have to put the values. So map1 dot put str1 dot char at of I and str2 dot char at of I. So now that we have put the values into the map, and we'll increment the I point. So like this, it will traverse through the length of the string, and we'll keep on checking for first two negative scenarios. If they're not true, it will keep on adding to the map. So that is going to wrap up the while loop. And what else? We have to return boolean. So if these are going to be true, any of these become true, it will anyway return false. Otherwise, if they are not satisfied and we have exact one-to-one mapping, so out of this while loop, here we have to return true. Okay, looks fine. Let's try to run this then. Okay, looks like there's a compilation error. Integer cannot be converted to boolean. Map one dot get str1. Okay, yeah, this is one thing. But integer, this should not be an integer. This should be a character. Let's try now. Okay. Okay, so this input is fine. Let's submit this. Okay, yeah. So it is passing through all the test cases now. So there were a bit of typos in between. So anyway, that is all about this problem. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this lecture. And do let me know in the comments below if there is something more you would like to see. And do consider subscribing to the channel if you are enjoying watching this content. Thank you so much.